Just want to say that I'm so scared to go out in the world next year because I was never a prejudiced person until I'm listening to you. It's really scary hearing what you're saying. I'm very scared. You're not preaching.
My dear young lady, when you go out into the world, you're going to find a reality that you're going to have to deal with. Please don't live in a fantasy world created by television. There's a very real world out there.
Mr. Farrakhan, I sit here and I'm seething. The things that you're saying only divides us.
Well, what is it that he said that makes you angry?
I don't like what you say about Jews or any other people. These things that you... And when you look at us, you're not...
talking about Jews. He's talking about an abasement of their religion
Phil,
by some people.
excuse me. What you're doing is Just a moment. You have been sitting there for an hour and you've been snickering and sneering at us.
Yes.
We don't look at you that way. We're giving you the respect, the full hour to listen. You're not Martin Luther King, who brought us together. I could listen to him forever, but you're dividing us.
Well, since I have 1 minute, I really thank you for the privilege of speaking to you and with you. I would hope that we as black people would come together and form a united front to deal with the problems that confront us. And then I would hope that whites would actually begin to know more about the condition that you are totally oblivious to. The Kerner report said that most whites know nothing really about what it is like to live in the ghetto.
I would just like to say that I am terrified that even you, someone who's obviously educated, has given up hope completely. Like when you call upon us, you say white folk, you say black people, Jewish people. Why can't we come together? We obviously can come together. We just have to find a way to do it.
The desire is good, but the reality is the total opposite of your desire. And unfortunately, as a young lady, you are not in the position of power to make the decisions to make America work. May I, as an audience of intelligent people, I would like to just take a moment to say to you that I really don't think you fully understand what has happened to these people that you look at as second class or inferior citizens in this nation. Black people who were brought to this country were stripped of their names, language, culture, religion, God, and taken totally away from the history of themselves. Here are 30 million people who don't wear their own names, they wear your names. Who don't speak their own language, they speak English, which is not their language. They never were allowed their own cultural expression of Africa. Don't you realize that when you turn a people upside down and inside out, then sell them not for a day, not for a year, but for 300 years and deny us the human right to know, to read a book, to learn, to understand. And then after 300 years of that, you allow us into the church, but by that time you've painted Jesus white, God white, the angels white, and then all these black people have been subjected to a form of white supremacy which produces in the reverse a black inferiority. And this is fulfilling what Jesus said, as a man thinketh, so is he. And as long as our people think the way they think, we will never be able to do what we as a people should do to correct our condition.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel once again. My name is Dash Lifestyle. Kindly for watching me for the first time, remember to subscribe, like, share, and also comment. So guys, I want us to continue watching this video from white audience. They are really upset with black audience because white people, they are now fearing black people to be empowered. And also, we want to see the reasons to why white people, they are afraid of black people. So kindly guys, let's continue watching this video, then I'll be back with more comment.
Here, please.
What I'd like to say, there was somebody over there in the audience who said that they were afraid, they were scared of when they were talking about the what he was saying, you see. And what I'm saying is the other day you asked Mandela that same question about fearing, white people fearing, you know, what will the black folks do and stuff. We should be running down the street screaming, ramping, and raving, because when you look at the statistics, who is the one dying? From the policemen, from the KKK, from the skinheads, from the black people.
We're getting be scared. It should be the people.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It should be us who should be scared, or y'all sitting here.
Excuse me, I was brought up in, quote, Bedford-Stuyvesant in my time. But I would like to say what scares us is I think we hear violence.
May I respond? Yeah. May I respond, please? I'm sorry.
All right. Minister Farrakhan, would you explain why it is relevant at this stage in 1990, with all that we've gone through, why it is still relevant to try and to educate or to get white people to understand the plight of black people? Shouldn't the energy be directed to us?
Right on.
If I may, my work is directly to black people. I spend 99% of my time dealing with us to help us reform our minds and spirit that we may do for ourselves. However, when you live in a society like this, and we know that in order to effect a solution to a problem between black and white, then there's going to have to be some meaningful dialogue between black and white in order to effect a solution. The young lady said she's afraid of violence. And isn't it sad that we who have been the victims of so much violence, now whites fear violence from us? We do not have a history of killing white people. White people have a history of killing us. See? And what you fear, may I say this, sir? What you fear, and it's a deep guilt thing, that white folks suffer. You are afraid that if we ever come to power, we will do to you and your fathers what you and your people have done to us. And I think you are judging us by the state of your own mind, and that is not necessarily the mind of black people.
I'm with you in that you're talking about wanting to have meaningful dialogue, and that's a problem. You know, right away, I don't know what's going to make whites happy, for Pete's sake. You know, you're talking about trying to find a solution to your problem. You're trying hard to do that, and we're tuning you right out. We're arguing with you. We're not agreeing with anything. We're not trying to give you a chance. For Pete's sake, you know, what do we want?
Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Farrakhan, there's a situation now where 1 in 4 black males are in prison or in jail or in some type of probation situation, okay? When I look around, even myself being a black reporter, okay, and they talk about racism of a black and white person go to the job, a black person is going to get the job, I never find that out. And we're in New York City with a black mayor, and I still haven't seen it. And when I see Minister Farrakhan, not only the brothers enlighten me, but he gives me hope to not give up, not go get a pistol and stick somebody up, okay? So when I see you, not only are you the light and the hope, but I think, white America, you need to listen. And please don't harm this brother, because we love him.
Yeah. Hang on a minute. Yeah.
Getting back to what she said, what exactly do we have a problem with? Before you made a statement, you said that I think that, well, not I, you said that white people think that you're inferior to us. I don't believe that. I'm part of the youth of America. I am not prejudiced. I feel more prejudiced right now than I've ever felt. Not against black, I am not prejudiced against black people. Some of my best friends are black people. I am, what's the problem with that?
Yeah.
You let him speak, let me speak.
Yeah. You wanted to speak to this young woman?
No,
I don't want to speak to that.
Who wants to talk to her? Yes.
No,
yes.
what do you mean you feel more prejudiced right now?
Because the way he's saying...
Because what?
What he's saying right now, I mean, I feel that you are prejudiced towards white people.
Okay, but excuse me. I think it's like he said, it might be a fear or misunderstanding that you have, because what fear has he put, or what has he actually said here today that makes you feel prejudiced?
I think that he said that we think that they're inferior. I think it's partly part of your own complex that you have to get over, because I don't feel you're inferior. I have nothing against black people.
Yes. Let me answer her. This is the, excuse me, this is the situation. Every young white adult says, I have not done this to black people. I have not done that to black people. But your forefathers are the ones who have set us in the situation we are in. Now, what I'm saying is this. When Nat Turner stood up, you all rejected him. You killed him. When Marcus Garvey stood up, you all rejected him, enslaved him. He died a broken heart. Now, what I'm saying is this. Your fathers have put us in the condition we are in, and today you are profiting from what your forefathers have done. Now, my grandchildren are going to be raised, and your children are going to say to them, they have not done to them, because you are the ones who are going to do to my grandchildren what they're going to experience if the situation continues. Now, what I'm saying is this. When we talk about America falling, what we are saying is this. If you all want to control America, then we must have a land base that we control. You all cannot continue printing the dollar bill and then expect us to abide by your rules when you do not want to give us jobs. Therefore, I'm saying that we have now got to come into negotiations, and Minister Farrakhan is the man to listen to.
It becomes apparent more and more as we listen to each other and try to talk to each other that we don't perceive reality the same. And as we're talking about either reconciling differences or separating, it becomes clear that if two people are looking at the same thing and perceiving it so differently, then the two people are operating under a different stimulus. And so when the young lady says, I am prejudiced, to be prejudiced means to judge before the fact. After 400 years of living and experiencing, we're not prejudiced. We are looking at the reality of what we have suffered and continue to suffer.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Are you there, caller?
Yes.
Thank you for waiting. I'm sorry it took us a while to get you, but go ahead. I know you'll be brief.
I'm a white American born into poverty, and I overcame it. You know, the opportunities are here in America, and why can't we just start now? We hear all this violence. Why can't we just talk in a positive way and go forward instead of remembering all these things that are in the past that are negative? They were not good for blacks, not good for white.
Yes, Minister Farrakhan commenting.
According to the State of Black America by the Urban League, if we started right now, they said, we could never close the gap to black poverty and white poverty. She said, let us start right now. Let's forget the past. Notice this. When Jewish people remember the Holocaust and want the world to remember the Holocaust. Wait. Why do you want the world to remember? Because if the world does not remember, it is likely to repeat itself. And Jewish persons who suffered from the Holocaust want the world to remember this because the world turned its back while Jews were put in ovens. I, as a black person, want my people to remember what we have suffered and what we continue to suffer so that we will say like the Jews, never again. Never again.
Okay, I've been listening in this corner right here, and I've heard a whole lot of negative things from the white people here. When you are trying to explain yourself, the white people don't want to hear you explain yourself. They drown you out. They start already trying to drown you out and talk over you. There's a certain amount of white arrogance here, and they don't want to listen to what black people are saying. They don't understand because they don't want to understand. I've heard a woman here say, go back to Africa. Somebody said, we have a black holiday. What does that mean? So what does that mean? He did not say that. He said, if we have a choice, what some of us can go and some of us can stay. But there's no understanding in here. People are just trying to talk.
To those arrogant persons, you know, when you tell us go back, please remember where you came from. And when you want to relegate somebody to a specific place, just remember what your origin is in this world. Please, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I want you to understand that you, wherever you are on the earth, you're not a native anywhere. You came there and took it from the native people who are there. So please don't talk about going back, because if others talk to you about that, where would you go?
Since founding, think about Thomas Jefferson's notes of the state of Virginia. I'm going to come home. I'm trying to get there. Right? Think about, he said, I tremble for this country because of the sin of slavery. Right? He was afraid of what that meant, the divine punishment that would come for holding another human being in slavery. And he writes that particular formulation in the section on habit formation. Because he said, what happens to a child who witnesses the violence of slavery? Something is broken on the inside of such a child who experiences that. Something happens to their character, Jefferson suggests. But in that moment of fear, right, it drives policy. Think about, right, the fear of Abraham Lincoln in the second inaugural, supposedly the second founding. Think about the fear surrounding Black rage with the Black Panther Party. You know, that cover of the New Yorker where they had Obama dressed as a Muslim and Michelle Obama as Angela Davis. And they were bumping fists, and people were like, what does that mean? Did they bumped fists? Did the black people just begin revolution? Fear. Fear drives policy. The moral panics around the so-called super predators, where the data suggested was not true. What did the moral panics do? It drove mass incarceration. Think about what happened with the Central Park Five. Those babies were innocent. Their lives stolen. Think about all the millions of folk who are locked up because of fear. Fear driving policy. We can no longer be afraid. And that fear actually drives our political behavior, black political behavior. As I said earlier, we're afraid to trigger your fears. So we will grit our teeth in the moment which you say something a little off color. Our fear of triggering white fear affects our behavior. So we're masking day in and day out, walking past each other, not really seeing the humanity of the person right in front of us. No wonder we're stuck. But Malcolm X said this, and I'm going to say this in front of you guys and make you mad. I don't care. We have to stop sweet talking. But we live in a time where the superordinate value seems to be putting oneself over and against another. So all we need to think about is our presidential election. We saw what happened in Asheville, North Carolina last night, yes? Folks throwing punches at each other, claiming that folks are bigots, that folks are ugly at the core, that they're going to take America back, make America great again, and doing so in the name of a kind of ugliness that I find deplorable. Oh, there's that word. But I want to take this back. I want to take it out of the easy target, at least for someone like myself, of Donald Trump. I want to think about this in the broader context of the United States. We live in a society where we can tell ourselves that we've turned an economic corner, that we have come out of the Great Recession. And when you look at black and brown communities in this country, when you turn your attention to those who are not, quote unquote, one of you, what do we see? We don't see a community that's come out of depression or come out of economic recession. We see a community struggling to make ends meet, right? I interviewed a young woman by the name of Christine Frazier. I write about this in the book. And Christine played by the rules, did everything right? Her husband died. She lost her job, and she couldn't make ends meet. She couldn't pay her house note. And the sheriff's office came in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they unlocked the door, and they told her and her mother and her daughter and her grandson to get out, and they proceeded to empty the house of a lifetime worth of memories, to put all of it in the yard. She said, they came into my home like I was a drug dealer, but they knew that dogs were there. And she said they told her they didn't have any place for her to go. And they said to her, you have to figure out what you're going to do. But they knew dogs were there, so they called animal shelter. And she said the pain of losing the house was one thing, but they came with the place for my dog. We live in a country, right, where we can talk about turning a corner, but there are people right in our midst, right, who are struggling to make ends meet. People who are working hard, who are honest, who are trying to make ends meet, but we disremember. We think it's their fault. Right? So in the book, I talk about the Great Black Depression. I talk about the fact that black folk lost their homes, over 240,000 homes lost as a result of the collapse of the housing market. I talk about, the fact that over 38%, 40% of black children are growing up in poverty. I talk about the downward mobility as African Americans experience the loss of incomes, the inability to dream big dreams for their children because they can't make ends meet. And we live in a country, right, that says we've turned the corner, right? But let me say this really quickly. Y'all all right? I don't know why you invited me here. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell the truth. In my mind, democracies require particular kinds of dispositions to work. But something has distorted and disfigured our national and individual character. Remember, I said there's a crisis of imagination. Imagination involves what? Not only just simply the fantastical and the creative. The imagination involves what? This ability, right, to see oneself, put oneself in the position of another. That has something to do with our characters. I want to say that something has distorted and disfigured who we take ourselves to be. And I call it the value gap. Now I'm about to get into the substance of it, taking my watch off, right? What is the value gap? The value gap is the belief that white people are valued more than others. Oh, I'm going to say it again. The value gap is the belief that white people are valued more than others. And this belief isn't the possession of loud racists, people running around with white sheets over their heads or swastikas tattooed on parts of their body. Rather, this belief animates our social practices, our political arrangements, and our economic realities. This belief that white people matter more than others distorts our characters and deform our democracy. I like to tell the story of my father, who was the second African-American hired at the post office in Pascagoula, Mississippi, the place where William Faulkner honeymooned. And back then, getting hired at the post office was high cotton, right? And so he knew he had precocious kids, so he decided to move us from the east side of Moss Point to the west side, on a hill, Briarwood Circle. And as we were moving into that house, I'm playing with my Tonka truck. You remember those old Tonka trucks? I'm playing with my Tonka dump truck, and I'm making my dump truck noises, and all of a sudden I hear an adult say, "Stop playing with that nigga." And it's the first time I had been called that word in that context. So I grabbed my truck and I took it inside and I took it to my father who doesn't suffer white people easily. Right? Ran outside and he did whatever he did. But that's how we typically tell the story of American racism, right? Some black family achieves the American dream. They move to a big house on a hill, and then some child is wounded by some mean-spirited adult who calls them the N-word, and then that child has to work all of her life to prove that she's not that. But that's too easy. It's too melodramatic. It's too all my children-like. My mother's favorite soap opera. Because I already knew at the age of 8 and 9 years old that we were moving from the black side of town to the white side of town. I already knew because Rose Drive, where we used to live, because the pipes are bad, every time it rained, it flooded. I already knew because the sidewalks weren't paved like they were on the west side. The baseball diamond wasn't cut as regularly as it was on the other side. The houses were smaller. The schools weren't as financed. The town, that side of town was subject to layoffs by Ingalls, the shipyard, paper mill. I already knew in the very built environment that something said that those folk over there were less valued than those folk over here. We want to look for the bad racist. Right? The obvious racist, but we are making choices day in and day out, right, that sustain racial inequality in this country. My colleague Imani Perry calls it a cultural practice of inequality. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I believe the planet is actually getting warmer. All right, you feel me? It's hottest summer on record, hottest year on record. But if you look at my house, and you look at my car, and you look at my light bulbs, you look at the way I live my life, the daily choices I make, you would think I believe the planet was all right. My day-to-day behavior suggests that I am a climate change denier. So there are folks running around here who are saying that they are committed to racial equality, but their choices. I just want my kids to go to the best schools. The social sciences have already said that whenever you hear that phrase, it's usually a proxy for how many black and brown kids attend my school. I want my neighborhood to be safe. We know what that means. I want my property values to stay. We know what that means. Right? So it's in the kind of water, the cultural practice, the value gap is evidenced. Let me give you a quote from James Baldwin in The Uses of the Blues. Y'all all right? Baldwin clearly states what he takes to be the Negro problem. I'm talking about what happens to you if you've barely escaped suicide or death or madness or yourself. You watch your children growing up, and no matter what you do, you are powerless. You are really powerless against the force of the world that is out to tell your child that he has no right to be alive, and no amount of liberal jargon, no amount of talking about how well and how far we have progressed does anything to soften or to point out any solution to this dilemma. In every generation, ever since Negroes have been here, Baldwin writes, every Negro mother and father has had to face that child and try to create in that child some way of surviving this particular world. Some way to make the child who will be despised not despise himself. I don't know what the Negro problem means to white people, Baldwin writes, but this is what it means to the Negro. What does it mean to try to construct an idea of the South in a country that is organized in every single way on the basis, on the grounds of the value gap? Not because people are mean-spirited, but it's because it's in the very DNA of the country. And this is what makes addressing the problem, I'm leaving my notes now. This is what makes addressing the problem of white supremacy, of racial inequality in this country so difficult, because we refuse to look the ugliness of who we are squarely in the face and dare to imagine ourselves differently. This is hard work. This is hard. The value gap isn't sustained by loud racists. The value gap is sustained by all of us. All of us. You don't need white people for white supremacy to work. When I'm in New Jersey and I'm driving down Stuyvesant Avenue in Trenton, I hold a set of generalizations about the people who occupy that particular neighborhood. It's known as Little Iraq. I keep my head on a swivel, right? There's a kind of particular fear that gets generalized, that is generalized to an entire population, that informs a set of assumptions about how I interact with them. And those generalizations have policy implications. We are socialized and habituated into believing, right, certain things about certain folks, right? I write about this in the text. Nancy DeTomaso at Rutgers, a social scientist, she did a series of interviews of white working class folk in Ohio and in Tennessee and in Jersey, I believe. And she said she was interviewing these workers, and one worker said, I'm sorry, black people are just lazy. They just want a handout. You've heard this before. It's been informing public discourse since I can remember remembering. And they don't want to work hard for anything. And it turned out that his father was close friends with the union boss who hooked him up with a job. Another interviewer, right? I'm sorry to say they're just lazy. They don't want to work. It turns out that not only his friend gave him the test that he needed to take for his job, gave him the answers to the test. And what Nancy's trying to suggest in this moment is, right, not that there is some, right, overt racism that's happening. People are just hooking up their friends and families, right? That it's what she calls opportunity hoarding, that racial inequality actually is perpetuated through social networks, right? And because we're so deeply a segregated society, our social networks are typically, 75% of our social networks are 100% homogeneous. So opportunities pass through certain networks that do not pass through others. Right? I'm just helping out my child. I'm not being racist. Right? I'm just helping out my neighbor. I'm not being racist. I said something jokingly to a friend the other night. I said, if we want to solve black-on-black crime in the United States, we just need to integrate neighborhoods. And they didn't quite get it. I said, some of you didn't get it either, right? Most crime takes place, right, because of proximity. White-on-white crime, 83% of crime that happens in white communities happens between white and unwhite people. 91% happens because our neighborhoods are segregated. If we all move together, then we'll just be criminal with each other. I don't know. Racial habits. The value gap distorts who we take ourselves to be. It blocks the way to the formation of the kinds of people democracies require. I was just talking about, with Reverend Hart Anderson, about Abraham Lincoln's rejection of the monstrous injustice of slavery, but his commitment to the belief that white people were superior than black people. And how those commitments blocked the way from him becoming the kind of human being his idea of democracy required. What does it mean in our country that we can hold the ideals of democracy, and when those ideals are extended to black and brown people, we are willing to erode the social safety net? Right? Welfare, for much of the New Deal, right, was in fact a project of Southern Dixiecrats aimed at addressing poor white Southerners. But the moment the face of the welfare state became black, as my colleague Martin Gillens writes, it became, right, an emblem of the problem with big government. What happens when we're willing to turn our backs on an idea, a robust idea of the public good, because it involves people who are not like us? It means that we're willing to throw democracy into the trash bin over the idea, over our commitment to the idea that some people, because of the color of their skin, are valued more than others. It's the value gap is at the heart of our problem. The value gap is evidenced in our habits of living, habits that define where we live, where we work. I can't begin to tell you how often I have to leave the particularity of my experience at the door in order to make white people comfortable. It's almost as if, as James Baldwin writes in Notes of a Native Son, we have to make ourselves blank in order to wash away your guilt. And so we dance this dance, America's racial theater. It's this dance so that you can't be called a racist and I can't trigger your fears. Huh? The worst thing that you can be called is a racist, even though everything that's coming out of your mouth, Donald Trump suggests otherwise. Right? We find ourselves in this dance, unwilling to confront the ugliness of who we are. Just think about this. The last piece of great legislation passed in the Great Society was the 1968 Fair Housing Act. I'm watching my time. 12 years later, Ronald Reagan is elected. 12 years later, there is the triumph of a political ideology designed to undo the Great Society and the New Deal. Did we fix the country in 12 years? 1965, the Voting Rights Act, right? By 1980, wholesale attack. We don't need to protect them anymore, right? Shelby, we don't need to do it. And what happens after the Shelby decision recently, right? We get a proliferation of attacks on voter registration, voter IDs, right? Think about it. At every turn, at every moment of progress in this country, we have seen a reassertion of the value gap. At the moment in which we give voice to the principles of liberty and equality, right? In the context of the American Revolution, what do we get in response? We reconcile those principles with racial slavery. John Adams, it is said to King George, "We will not be your Negroes." At the very moment in which he's giving voice to an idea of freedom, is predicated upon an intimate understanding of unfreedom, a reassertion of the value gap. In the moment of radical reconstruction, we offer, right, a vision of multiracial democracy. What do we get in response to radical reconstruction? We get convict leasing, right? Convict leasing. You wouldn't have the city of Birmingham without the labor, the forced labor of convicts, quote unquote. People arrested for what reason, right? Slavery by another name, as Brother Blackman talked. And you get Jim Crow and a reassertion of the value gap. In the context, right, of the black freedom struggle of the mid-20th century, everyday ordinary people demanding dignity and standing. What do we get in response? We get the tax revolt in Northern California. And we get calls for law and order. Value gap. What do we get when we elect our first black president? And we think we turned the corner. We get the vitriol of the Tea Party. And we get a wholesale attack, right, on the voting rights of black and brown peoples. At every turn, at every moment of progress, that progress is arrested by a reassertion of the value gap. We have to do the work, but we're afraid. We are afraid.
I hope you have watched that video from our professors. You have heard from Minister Louis Farrakhan, and also you have heard from our last professor coming out and giving the reasons to why white people, they are afraid of black people. And also the first video from Louis Farrakhan, also it is talking about how the white people, they don't want to empower black people simply because the white people, they have now started to fear black people because they don't want black people to unite. What they talk about, it is how they don't want to talk about how black people, they are being oppressed in America. They don't want to talk about how black people, they are being treated in America. The only thing that these people, they want to talk, the white people, they want to talk, it is the affairs that it is so concerned to them. But when black people, they are raising up their voice, the white folks, they don't want to listen. But right now, you have heard from the white audience, which it was being upset with the black people. Majority of white people, they were standing up and saying that they need to unite. They need to unite right now. And also they are now coming out and say that you blacks don't blame us because we are not the ones who did all these things to you. The people who did it, it is our ancestors. So these white folks, they want us black people to stop talking about what happened to us long time ago. They want us black people to forgive them and and forget as if everything it is normal. And Minister Louis Farrakhan, I really love to bring, first of all, I really love to bring Minister Louis Farrakhan to this channel, because Minister Louis Farrakhan is educating black people, and also he's telling the black people not to forget their history, and is reminding them what the white folks did to us black people. And also Minister Louis Farrakhan is always defending and support black people, because we have seen a lot of things which it is happening in America. The black people that are being oppressed, the black people that are being given less opportunity, the voices of the black people, it is not being heard in United States. But when you're talking about these other races, when they are Chinese, they are complaining in America, their voice will be heard. When the Indians, they are complaining in America, their voice will be heard. When the white people themselves, they are complaining, their voice, it is being heard. But to the black community, their voices, it is not being heard. Why are they ignoring black community? But I'm so happy to the Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he's an educator to us black people, and also he's telling us black people not to forget our history. And that's why Minister Louis Farrakhan is forefront to fight the rights of the black people. So we have seen the Minister Louis Farrakhan, he has come out and shut down and shut up to the white audience. By the white audience, they were complaining that we black people, we are complaining too much, and we are not the white peoples right now, they are not the ones who oppress the black people, who enslave black people. But Minister Louis Farrakhan is coming out and remind them, you know, we black people, we don't have any history of killing white people, and that it is true. We black people, we don't have a history of killing white people, but you can see the history of white people. These people, they have a history of killing thousands of us black people, and yet they want us black people to forgive. No, this is one of the reasons why we black people, we are asking for reparation to our country. First of all, these people, they want us right now to forgive them. And also they're coming out and saying they're not the ones who destroyed us black people. They are their ancestors. So we black people right now, we are demanding for reparation. They need to pay the damage that they did to us black people. Some of our families up to now, they're still having the scars of slavery. Some of our people, they are still having the scars of slavery. So these people, they need to compensate for the damage they did. They need to pay, and also they need to return some of the stolen things that they stole during slavery period, because we know these people, they are having our treasures thing, our black treasures thing in their museum. Yes, when you go to their museum, they want us black people, first of all, to pay to go in and see the things that they stole from here in Africa to the black people. So this is tell you that these people, first of all, if they want us black people to forgive them, they need to pay for the damage they did. They need to pay reparation to all black countries. And also, they need to return the stolen things that they stole from the black people. So these are some of the things that these people, they need to do. And also, these people, they need to start to give equal opportunity to the black Americans, because these people, they went ahead and finished Marcus Garvey, because, you know, Marcus Garvey was speaking and defending the black people. But when these people, they saw that this Marcus Garvey is coming out and would educate black people, they went ahead and bring him down. And this is not the things that they are doing only in United States. These people, they are doing this to all black leaders. When they see a black leaders coming out and defending the rights of the black people, they usually try so hard to eliminate, to assassinate that black leader. So this is tell you that these people, they don't want us black people to unite. This is one of the reasons. This is the reasons to why these people, they are so afraid of us black people, because they know we black people, we are so powerful. Yeah, we are having power. And also they know that black people, when they will come together, they will build their country, and their country will be more powerful. And also these people, they don't want us black people to unite, because they are so much afraid of us. Because when we black people will unite and become more stronger and more powerful, we will also starting questioning them to pay for the things that they did to us black people during slavery. So these are some of the reasons to why the white people, they are so much afraid of us black people. And also our minister Louis Farrakhan, he has come out and tell us that we need to unite black people. It is now the right time for us black people to unite, because our voices, it is not being heard, because one of the reason is black people, we are not unite. We black people, we are known of supporting other races than our own races, because we black people, we can't go and shop to our fellow black people. We black people will go and shop to the Chinese and white store. We black people, instead of supporting our brothers and sister business, we are the ones who want to see their business going down. So we black people, first of all, we need to change that curse that these white people, they came and brainwash us black people. So we need to start supporting our own. We need to give ourselves first priority before giving these other races for their priority, because we can see these other races, they are not supporting black people. Have you ever seen a Chinese supporting black people, going to shop in a black store? No, you can't find Chinese going to shop in a black store. You can't, it is not easy to find a white person going to shop in a black store. So these people, they want us to go and support them, but they don't want us black people to support. They don't want they don't want to support our black store. So it needs to be a two-way traffic. So these people, they need to respect us, and us black people respect them. These people, they need to shop in our store, and us black people to go and support them in their store. So we need to bring this world to be equal to all people, no matter the color, because we are all human beings. And also we need to respect each other. The white folks, they need to drop down their races towards the black people. They need to respect, and they need to do the good things to us black people, because there is a time that the white folks, they'll be forced to apologize to us black people. So kindly guys, subscribe if you haven't, like this video, share, and also comment. See you on my next one. Bye bye guys.